my God, she was on her period. She was not dying. Make it make sense. See your period is something to gain deeper understanding of self. Just hit pause. Do you really want to go into that relationship forever just yet? You know, like, think about it. Show yourself some grace instead of beating yourself up for it. Don't be shy. Come on, don't be shy. Join us. You know you want to. Hello, my name is Ayomide and welcome back to the Ayomide Experience. If this is your first time here, welcome. I am extremely glad to have you here and I hope you stay a while. This video is brought to you by Vague. What's Vague, you ask? Well, if you cast your mind back to my first ever video, I am a member of a fantastic, amazing, incredibly talented collective of creatives / growing business called Vague. At Vague, we're creating and producing the art, the content that we want to see. For us, community is a big thing, as well as making art, fashion, literature, film accessible. We're always saying, for us, by us. We want to see ourselves out there, do you know what I mean? We want to see ourselves in the art that we make. Does that refresh your memory a little bit? Yeah. I mean, some of you, you're like, it's the first time I'm ever hearing of this. That's probably because you didn't watch my first video. Why not? I'm gonna put it up here somewhere. You should go watch that after this one. At Vague, we have an initiative called Tomes, which is the community observer, where we publish art, conversations, and perspectives from inside Vague to the world. Now, this video is a Tomes piece that falls under our current season of connection. And today we are going to be talking about periods and our connection to them. We're going to be looking at the discourse surrounding periods, both societal and personal, how we can form healthier relationships with our periods, our bodies, and with other people who experience menstruation. So the breakdown of this video is going to be, we're going to talk about the way periods are viewed kind of around the world using some case studies here and there, you know, the good, the bad, the ugly, the taboo, the scary, no, not really, not the scary, but no. I'm going to talk about my personal discourse around periods and I'm going to tell you guys the story of my first ever period. We're going to look at the fantastic book by Maisie Hill called Period Power, which heavily inspired this video, and us at Vague wanted to talk about menstruation and periods. We're going to talk about that and specifically the 4 seasons, which I will go into more detail about later in the video, and how reading the book led us at Vague to kind of track our periods in a slightly different way, and how we felt before tracking this way and how we felt after tracking this way for a couple of months. It's only been about 2 months that we've been doing this now. And then I'm going to talk about some resources that we have for you and how you can get involved with Vague and how you can become a member and all of that stuff. I know this video might be a long one. It will be timestamped so you can skip whatever you're not interested in and you can just get to the nitty-gritty of what you want. So without further ado, let's get into it. Yeah, get into it. So I think, and I reckon that you would all agree with me, that there's still so much stigma attached to periods and people who menstruate. And there are so many injustices that are happening surrounding periods and of course the people who experience them. I mean, it wasn't until January of this year that the period tax was abolished, because before then, period products were classed as non-essential luxury items.
I'm so damn confused.
Make it make sense to me, because if I was to view period products as a luxury item and I decided, you know what, this month I don't need that, I'm gonna free bleed. There's nothing wrong with free bleeding, by the way. People who do it, you're going with your best self. I might try it one day, but anyway. And if I decided to free bleed and it turns out that, you know, I had period stains on what I was wearing, on my dress, on my trousers, on my skirt, whatever I chose to wear, will people not start screaming and shouting off the top of the roof? Tell me if I went out that no one would say something to me, that people wouldn't ridicule me, people wouldn't be pointing at me, people wouldn't be looking at me weirdly. They would. But sorry, I can't afford that luxury this month or next month or whatever. Or like, I want to use the money that I would use for that luxury over here. You know, like you've got to pick one. Like you can't create a society or a world where girls are embarrassed, scared of, you know, possibly leaking, of anyone like seeing something that they do naturally that just happens, but then the products that they would use in order to help avoid that, or at least lessen the chances of that happening, you now go and call it a luxury item. My guy, my G, whoever decided to put a tax on that, make it make sense. Make it make sense, because it doesn't. So we thank God that they came to their senses, but it's just the beginning, you know? And I can't do a period video without mentioning period poverty. You know, the fact that so many women around the world, especially in developing countries, cannot afford period products. Girls are missing school, people are making their period products from cloth and cow dung. And you know what? I feel like they're actually quite innovative, because one is they're not just doing it because it's more affordable, but because it's more sustainable and just better for the environment. And then you have the whole misogyny that surrounds periods and menstruating, and people not being able to understand or wrap their heads around the fact that it's not just women that have periods. Non-binary people, trans men, intersex people also have periods, and not everyone who identifies as a woman has periods. Like, there's so much scope and understanding that goes into periods, and I think it's amazing the way the conversation is starting to change. Not just starting to change, but how we're bringing the way we viewed periods back, because before colonizers came and told a lot of the countries that they colonized that periods were dirty, unsanitary, hence the name sanitary products, in order to keep us clean. A lot of indigenous cultures, indigenous people, and when I say indigenous, I mean, you know, the broad term indigenous, we didn't think it was unclean. We didn't think there was this whole stigma about it, and we're gonna get into that in literally like a couple of seconds, but I just wanted to kind of go over like the general consensus, especially in Western society, of how periods are viewed and how we still have a lot of work to do. Sometimes it's unfair that we have to do the work, but I mean, if we don't talk, who else will? I just want to say that I'm trying to communicate this as best as I can. I'll be as clear as I can, but obviously if there's anything that you don't understand or anything that you want to correct me on, go for it. So yeah, let's look at some facts and how periods are viewed in different places around the world. I'm going to start with the negatives, because I feel like let's get the negatives out of the way and then we'll go to the positive stuff. I'm taking most of these from the Women's Health magazine. So here we go. In Bolivia, girls are told that menstrual blood can cause diseases such as cancer if mixed with other trash. So a lot of the time, girls will leave their pads and tampons in their bags all day instead of disposing of them, because they're so scared of causing disease, basically. In Barbados, women who wear tampons are considered no longer a virgin or slutty. Similarly, in Egypt, tampons are reserved for women, because if you wear one, then it's considered that you're no longer a virgin. In the Women's Health mag, there was a woman from Egypt. She told a story about how this man refused to sell her friend a tampon because he was like, "You're not a woman yet. No, I refuse to give this to you. If I give this to you, then it means that you're not a virgin." It's just so mad that men think that they have ownership over our bodies like that. Like, she knew what she needed, she knew what period product she wanted to use, but it just wasn't being given to her because she wasn't a woman. In Japan, they say women can't be sushi chefs. Say that 3 times fast. Sushi chefs. Yeah, I can't. Sushi chefs, because menstruating throws off their sense of taste. In Nepal, the tradition of chapati involves isolating menstruating women in sheds where they're often left without food or water, and in extreme cases, this often leads to death, and if not death, then disease and illnesses. If you see me looking down, it's because I'm looking at my laptop and looking at my notes. So in South Africa, there's a myth that lions can smell menstrual blood, and so boys often like to like mess around with girls and tell them to like watch out when they go too close to lions and stuff like that. And this one isn't really negative, it's just a bit silly, isn't it? Like, what? Now, let's move on to some of the positives and some of the nice ways in which periods are viewed, and how period culture has less stigma and is more about community and power and strength. All of the negative examples that I just gave you were from a Women's Health article, but these next positive ones are taken from different sources because I wanted to switch up a little bit. But that article does have positive stories, have positive testimonials about the way periods are viewed and the way periods are celebrated in other parts of the world. So in Nigeria, there's a tribe. So one of the smaller tribes, the Bagi tribe. I hope I'm saying that right. It's either the Bagi tribe or the Bagi tribe. Bagi or Bagi. The Bai tribe hold a menstruating ceremony for girls when they have their first period. Old women bathe them in water and herbs, dress and feed and educate them about their periods and what this means for them now. And when asked why they do this, an older Bai woman answered, "It's to remind women to take care of themselves because women spend a lot of time caring for others. It's also to show women that she has a support system that will always be there to guide her." And I just think that's so lovely. In the Beng tribe of the Ivory Coast, a menstruating woman is seen as a flower, and her menstrual fluid is seen as a symbol of life and fertility. Because of this, during their periods, women avoid farming and cooking. One, because they believe that during their period they have mystic powers that will cause the forest to overgrow, so they avoid farming so that doesn't happen. They also believe that they transfer fertility to anyone they cook for, so they avoid cooking as a way of kind of controlling the birth rate sort of thing. In some South Indian communities, a girl's first period is welcomed through a coming of age ceremony called Ritu Kala Samskara, or a half sari function. The girl receives gifts and wears a traditional outfit called langa vani, which is a skirt and sari outfit, also known as a half sari. And that's, again, it's just cute, like it's a nice celebration. There's no stigma around it. It's like, yeah, baby, you're a woman now, or you're a person. In an article that I found that's published in 1982, it looks at the Yurok people, which is a Native American tribe based at the edge of California, and how they view their periods and the rituals they undertake. And one part that really stood out to me was when one of the York women said this: "A menstruating woman should isolate herself because this is the time when she's at the height of her powers. Thus, the time should not be wasted in mundane tasks and social distractions, nor should one's concentration be broken by concerns of the opposite sex. Rather, all of one's energies should be applied in concentrated meditation on the nature of one's life, to find out the purpose of your life and toward the accumulation of spiritual energy." I just think that's so cool. Again, just another way of looking at periods, having less taboo, less stigma attached to it, and embracing it as this natural, powerful thing that the people who experience them have within themselves. Last but not least, as a kind of positive that I want to point out, there's this TikTok/reel that I've seen a couple of my friends reposting their stories, and it's this girl talking about Hawaiian culture, and she mentions how when women were on their period, they were viewed as gods, and how it was a matriarchal society, and where like the women were viewed as having the most spiritual power. And so during this time, the men would cook and the women wouldn't do anything. They would, like chill and really just kind of like bask in their godliness. And I will probably insert the reel here somewhere if I can, or I'll link it. I just think it's just so lovely to see the culture and the indigenous tribes and peoples who are still looking at periods as this positive thing, as this celebration, as this, this initiation into womanhood, into a personhood, into adulthood. So with that all said and done, let's move on to some personal stuff. Do you guys want to hear about like my first period and what happened? Even if you don't, I'm gonna tell you anyway. But fun fact, I'm currently on my period right now, so nothing. That's it. I'm on my period now. Anyway, so my first period, I started my period when I was 10 years old, and it took me by surprise. I didn't know it was my period when I was on it. So I remember I needed to go to the toilet, and I looked at my underwear and I saw what looked like skid marks, and I was like, what is going on? I'm sure that I cleaned my butt properly. I don't understand. And I was like, okay, you know what, it's fine. Maybe I didn't clean it as well as I thought. I'm gonna take extra measures and make sure I'm clean it properly. And then for the next couple of days, I kept seeing this skid. I was like, what is going on? My little mind was so confused. I was like, Ayo, you are not cleaning well. I don't understand. Like, why do we keep having to get marks? Because when period blood is dry, it can get like a brown color in it. And because it was my first period, it wasn't a heavy flow. So it really literally just looked like skid marks, guys. And I was so confused. And then finally, because I was tired of the confusion, I went to tell my mom, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. You having this mark in my underwear. And you know what? Today I haven't even pooed. So I don't know what this is. I'm so confused. Am I okay? Am I dying? And she goes, okay, show me. And then she's like, okay, all right. You're having your period now. And I was like, Oh, that's what that is. And the main thing that she told me, pretty much the only thing that I can really remember about what she told me, other than, you know, how to look after it and how to use pads and stuff, was that I can now become pregnant if I had sex. When she explained that to me, I had a flashback to when I was younger than 10 and she had just left the bathroom and I think she forgot to flush and I saw blood in there and I was so scared. I was like, oh my god, my mom's dying. Mom's dying, what's going on? And I didn't say anything because I was so scared. And so fast forward to 10-year-old me who's now started her period and realizing, oh my god, she was on her period. She was not dying. Clearly, because obviously she's still alive years later. Yeah, that's the story of my first period. So for me with my periods, I've always tracked them. My mom always encouraged me to track my periods, but in terms of tracking, it was just kind of like jotting down dates. We had a little notebook that I was responsible of keeping and I would write down when me and my mom and my sister started our periods and the date that we ended, and it was just so that we knew when to expect them for the next month. So I've been tracking my period for as long as I've had it, basically, but that doesn't mean that my relationship to it was great. I remember that for like a year of having my period, like a hot water bottle was strapped to my stomach. I had headaches like throughout my life in general, and then I got to a point where that stopped and I didn't get headaches like that anymore, like on a daily basis, because it used to be really bad. But when I did get headaches, it would be when I was on my period. For the most part, I associated my period with pain, discomfort and inconvenience, especially when it came to my emotions. And when I knew that my extra rawness in terms of emotions was a result of my period approaching, I struggled between blaming any kind of emotion on my period and therefore like invalidating my feelings or using it as an excuse and not saying anything at all, not blaming my emotions on my period, because I didn't want to perpetuate the misogynistic view that, oh, women are too emotional and irrational, or encourage anyone to say, ah, it must be that time of the month. Either choice was detrimental to myself because it was a choice between invalidating my feelings or perpetuating beliefs that I knew were wrong. You know, that was my struggle. And still, so for me, like I said, periods were just associated with pain, inconvenience and discomfort. It was just something that I had to deal with every month that I couldn't wait for it to be over. I can't pinpoint exactly when my relationship to my period and menstruating changed. I think I just got to a point where I was tired of wasting those days. I choose to be more gentle with myself when menstruating. I got a new tracking app called Flow, which didn't just ask me about dates, it asked me about my emotions. I still use Flow, by the way. It asked me about my emotions, it asked me about hydration, digestion, sleep, etc. I started eating differently around and on my period, and you know, sometimes I fumbled, but that's okay. It's okay to fumble, you just pick yourself back up. But yeah, like I would be more careful. I knew that certain foods made the pain worse, or certain foods made it harder for me get to sleep while I was on my period and stuff like that. You'll notice that in some of my videos when I do mention my period that I try to come at it with sensitivity and gentleness. I try to acknowledge the things, issues and feelings that it brings up for me, and you know, and move through them rather than ignoring them and just being like, oh, it doesn't matter, like it's just because I'm on my period, like I don't really feel that way. I have become aware that I do feel that way and my period is simply heightening because it's like, baby girl, you better deal with this right now. Because I think when I looked at the things that happen emotionally, specifically with my period, I was like, just disregard it because it's just because you're on this thing. And so I looked at them as like not real. But now things that have come up while I'm on my period for me are very real, probably more real than how I'm feeling outside of it. For me now, I'm deeper connected to myself during this period. Unintended. And so that's a little bit about me. One of like the things that I hope that will happen at the end of this video is that you rethink your relationship to your period if you know you feel like it might be unhealthy, and just see your period as something to gain deeper understanding of self. Speaking of understanding, let's move on to the brilliant book Period Power by Maisie Hill, which I highly recommend to anyone who experiences periods, get this book, read this book. It's so good, so informative. It talks about diet, different things to try, how to like change that around. It talks about syncing with the moon. It talks about perimenopause, which is just before menopause. It talks about menopause. It talks about having your first period. And it talks about the experiences of individuals who are not and do not identify as women. I'm going to tell you about the 4 seasons. That's the bit what we're going to focus on, because this is a huge ass book and we can't go over everything. And I think that's maybe illegal if I did. So there's winter, which is menstruation when you're on your period. Then there's spring, which is pre-ovulation. Summer, which is during ovulation. And autumn, which is pre-menstruum, so the week or so before your period. And then she also mentions transition days, which you may have between each season. She describes these days as days where you can feel too much or not much at all, because sometimes they result in a sense of emptiness or numbness. Yeah, so look out for those pesky transition days. Anyway, I'm gonna give you a quick rundown of each season and some of the things that will help you know when you're in those seasons, and some of the superpowers and the dangers of those seasons. I'm not gonna go into too much detail just for the sake of time, and also to act as an incentive for you to get the book so that you can get like full information. Let's start off with winter. A few ways you'll know you're arriving in your winter. Your ego experiences a collapse and you're able to let go. You may experience an emotional upheaval. Your energy goes a bit more inward and you want to spend less time with other people outside, and you really just want to concentrate on you. You may get a sense of bliss due to the release of oxytocin and endorphins, and your boundaries tend to dissolve and you become more vulnerable to the world. So some superpowers of winter, aka the period, the bleeding, the menstruation, is you're also able to set boundaries. It is a time to set boundaries. Do what you need to do in order to safeguard yourself, because you're becoming more vulnerable to the world. To nourish yourself, and nourish not necessarily in the sense of food, although that is a part of it, but doing something that is pleasurable, restorative, and about you. Even if you do it with somebody else, but you know that this thing is feeding you. Rest is a superpower of this season, so take it. Release and receiving, those are the superpowers. The dangers of this season, however, are carrying on without awareness, which is, I think, what I used to do. It was just, I'm bleeding for however long, let's just get this over with, I don't care what happens, or ignoring the call to retreat, guilt, and rushing out. After spending some time alone or like resting, you might want to be like, let's go, I'm ready now, but it might be too early. So those are some of the dangers. The winter in your cycle is like your monthly check-in, your time for introspection to figure out what worked for you and what didn't work for you in the last month leading up to your period. Set your intention. Allow your inner thoughts and emotions to rise to the surface, and trust the instincts you have when you are bleeding. That's something that Maisie writes in the book, and I think that's so important. Trust the instincts that you have when you are bleeding. You will become like highly intuitive and just learn to trust that. You'll know you're in your spring because you'll be feeling more social, you're feeling more enthusiastic, creative. You'll find your self-esteem increasing and you'll feel a stronger sense of self, and you'll be happier with your reflection. Apparently during spring, our complexion clears up. We're looking like, damn. Damn, mommy. You a rare breed. No comparing. And it's scary. So happier with our reflection. The superpowers of spring are potential. So you start to get a sense of the spaces you can grow in your body, your mind, and the world. Building and expanding, whether that's a new habit, self-esteem, some muscle. Yeah. The superpower of spring is also being curious and exploring and play. Embrace being childlike in your spring. The dangers of spring, however, are exposing yourself, i.e. going out into the world too soon, succumbing to pressure, tiredness, and distraction. I would say that your spring is a time to really experiment. Forget perfection and literally play. Like, embrace naivety, embrace incompetency, try new things, and be okay with making mistakes, be okay with failing. Also, this is a time that you have a higher tolerance for pain and endurance, so literally it's a really good time for endurance training and strength training. Moving on to the summer. Okay, so like summer is like summer, like you're ready. Summer is hot girl time, hot person time, hot boy time. Do you know what I mean? You know you're here because you'll be feeling unstoppable, be feeling level-headed and able to articulate your thoughts and your feelings confidently. You'll be in the mood for pleasure. And you'll be feeling turned on by life. Your capacity for giving and receiving love just grows immensely, as does your desire to seek out union and joy. The superpowers of summer are invincibility. I mean, not really. Don't go and like put a knife or something to your skin and be like, I'm invincible during summer. What? Nothing can hurt me.
I'm invincible.
What? You feel invincible, you feel like you can go out, do what you need to do and get it done. Productivity, expansion, connection and communication, and pleasure. Those are summer's superpowers. Summer's dangers are feeling too visible, saying yes to everything, getting giddy, and wasting opportunities. Ultimately, in summer, you're in a state of flow. You've got inner strength and you're flexible and you're able to move through life more easily, and you feel like you can deal with whatever life throws at you. You're oozing capability, confidence, and sex appeal. And who doesn't love a bad bee? Who doesn't love someone who's doing that? So if you're feeling that, you're probably in your summer, and if you're not, doesn't mean you're not in your summer. There just may have been some things that happened in your spring or in your winter that means that your summer's a little bit lower energy. The book talks about that and deals with that. And finally, autumn, which is so funny because in the book she also calls autumn highway to hell. And it's like, oh, okay, cool. Okay, so you know you're here because you're more sensitive to criticism, whether it's from yourself or from others. You might find yourself reacting instead of responding. You're also more assertive and you want to focus on what's important to you. The superpowers of autumn are deep thought and focus, reviewing, deciding. This is a time to learn to trust your instant response, editing and organizing, speaking candidly. Those are autumn's superpowers. Autumn's dangers, though, are pain and catastrophe. So if you're someone who kind of goes through autumn or even your entire cycle kind of not acknowledging your body's needs, your mental needs, then it can be a time of like great physical and emotional upheaval and pain for you. She says this, chucking out the baby with the bathwater, which just means that even though one of the superpowers of autumn is being able to make decisions, you might start making radical decisions that you will regret later. And so don't want to do that because that's dangerous. You want to hit pause and, you know, just wait before you decide to cut all your hair off, you know? Or just wait before you say yes to the man that's proposing to you. Just hit pause, you know? Do you really want to go into that relationship forever just yet? You know, like, think about it. Other dangers are truth talking. So again, even though superpower is speaking candidly, your ability to be honest in this season can become disrespectful and insensitive. So again, be careful. And then the last danger is overloading your schedule. Don't do it. I know. Life is busy. We gotta be productive. We live in this society. But don't do it, sis. Don't do it. Don't. So autumn overall is when the rose-tinted glasses of summer get taken off and are replaced with zero tolerance for BS. It allows you to prioritize yourself. It's time to practice saying no. It's time to remember that any anger or even any other emotions you might feel during this season are valid, and they are rising up because they've always been there. And chalking them down, chucking them down. Guys, what is that saying? Is it chalking them down? Chalking them down, chucking them down. Blaming it, let's just say, and blaming any emotion that you have during this time on PMS is doing yourself a disservice. Honor your emotions, honor the way you're feeling, voice your grievances in this time period to do that. And now we move on to the period tracker, the cycle tracker that we made. So in period power, Maisie Hill goes in about self-care and she provides practical tools to doing so. She talks about how tracking your period can be really important to your well-being and even be life-changing, and is just like one small but huge way of taking care of yourself and being accountable. We took some of the things Maisie suggested to keep track of and put them in a table, which we have also made available to you. I will talk a bit more about that later. Karina, who is best described as the mother of vague and a multi-talented babe, and I have been using this tracker for the past 2 months. But before I show you what the tracker looks like and talk about why you may prefer to use this to track your period instead of the tracker that you already use, if you do use one, I asked Karina to tell us about how she feels about her period before she started tracking, and here's what she had to say.
Hello, my name is Karina and I am going to be participating in Ayamede's research project on cycle tracking for vague I am in my winter now. It's pretty much the only season that I'm actually familiar with at this point in time. So definitely interested in getting to know and understand the other seasons a little bit more. It's probably worth saying that I am like super into like manual, like personal data collection. I know that there are like plenty of apps and stuff that track your cycle for you and like give you alerts and stuff. But I guess I'm more of like retrospective in my approach when it comes to stuff like that. So I don't really use any of those. It's very much, okay, this happened on this day. And then I kind of like look back and see how things have changed. So definitely looking to get more insight into my cycle and how that affects me, probably more specifically with regards to my productivity, because I never really thought about that, which is probably a handicap in the workplace. And then also cravings, definitely interested to see if there are any cravings that are linked to my cycle. And there's so many like things that you need to like track on this thing I never even thought about, so I'm just like, let's go. I can't wait to see like how things change or don't change through the different seasons. Yeah, let's get stuck in.
So we decided to create this table on Notion because we're in love with this interface and how many options it gives you for design. This is not sponsored, I promise. This here is the vague cycle tracker. We've got some instructions for you that will show you kind of, how to use it, what to do, how everything works and how to fill it in. And then the tracker kind of looks at your emotions, energy levels, body pain, menstrual pain, headaches, bloating, appetite, hydration, cravings, digestive upsets, sleep hours, libido, exercise, breast tenderness, cervical fluid / discharge, basal body temperature, needs, and tags. Now I know it looks like a lot, but the main thing that you should focus on is the emotions column. So if you come into a day and you're like, I cannot be bothered to fill out every single thing here, the main thing that you should focus on is emotions. So over here we have code names. This person mainly focused on filling out the tracker while they were on their period, and that's okay. Sometimes we forget, but this is something that you should try to do every day. And in terms of the tags column, this will just kind of help you know if it was summer, winter, spring, or autumn. And I'll show you guys what my cycle tracker looks like. It's the same thing. I've taken this and I've just copied it over to my own Notion. Here we have my cycle tracker, which I've called cycle diaries, and you can see that I've been filling it out since the 27th of March. And here we have like all the emotions I've felt, all the things I've kind of gone through, and you can see on some days that there's a lot more filled out. But if we go further down to about May, the last couple of days of May, I mostly just fill out the emotions column, and occasionally I'd fill out other stuff, but for the most part it's just emotions, because that's the most important bit. Okay, you can compare and contrast. You can look at the tags and see if there are any patterns that occur in different parts of your cycle. For example, maybe your emotions tend to be the same a few days into your autumn, or your craving for something intensifies while you're in your winter. It's another way to get to know yourself better, another way to be connected to yourself, to understand why you may be feeling a type of way at certain points in your cycle, and to show yourself some grace instead of beating yourself up for it. So now let's talk about how Karina and I felt after spending 2 months tracking our periods in this way.
Okay, we are just going to jump right in. We're at the end of the cycle tracking trial. I am on the cusp of summer, so we're not supposed to be able to tell, but I run hot, so I can actually feel myself getting hotter, and it was the same in April as well. Just feel my temperature like going up. At summertime, like that was like the main thing that I got, and also like I was more energetic, and I'm definitely more energetic now. It's almost hyper. Whereas in the winter time, I'm looking at my emotions and numb, empty, very dark. Winter was very dark. Energy levels were averaging like 60%, so my productivity was just not it. I was also in pain like consistently throughout winter, which I know is a new development from lockdown. So like before 2020, that was not a thing for me. Like my periods were a breeze. June 21st has a lot riding on her. I'm just gonna put that out there. Cravings was another thing that I wanted to get, and that was fries. Burger King, McDonald's, not KFC, but like yeah. I was all over that. And just looking at this now, another thing was I wasn't drinking water. I was only drinking fizzy drinks during the winter time, which is so reckless. But like needs wise, space and quiet during my winter, like that's just cute. I'm sorry. And then like during spring, it's like company and conversations. That's so adorable. Anyway, I'm definitely gonna keep like doing this. I want to like see how things change over time, like with what's happening like around just in general in life. So yeah, this is gonna be part of my day-to-day. Very excited, and also very like grateful to have been part of this as well. So thank you.
Genuinely, I just think my period is so special. I feel blessed to occupy this body and to occupy a body that menstruates, because I think it's so powerful, and I've just become intrigued with what comes up and what rises. The smallest things become so much more beautiful, and so now I'm not like humiliated at my emotions. I'm almost kind of in love with the fact that I'm able to emote for something that maybe seems small but really isn't, you know? And I just noticed also that by tracking this way, I've learned to avoid making plans too early in my spring. I also noticed that I get some of my best editing done from my YouTube videos when I'm in my autumn, just because like that's where like my mind is in terms of like the way the hormones are working, the way my body's working. Of course I notice anomalies because not everyone is gonna fit the scripts. Some people's winters might be a bit more summery, some people's summers might be a bit more wintry, and so I've noticed things like still wanting to be alone during summer. That might just be an introvert thing. Or during my winter, it's not that I just want to be alone, I want specific company, and sometimes during my winter I do not want to be around specific men. It's not like they've done anything, it's just an energy thing. I think by tracking this way, if you know what you need in a particular season but you are unable to get it in one cycle, then you can make sure that that need is met the next time you're in that season. I just feel like it might be a better way for you to look at everything as a whole and maybe like a bit more fun, because it's personalized to you. The thing is, with some period trackers, even with Flow, the one that I use, when it's asking me for like how I feel, I'm like, these do not describe how I feel enough. It's a bit too generic, whereas with this you can get really specific and literally write what you want. The cycle tracker is available to everyone, and you can either join the vague one or duplicate it onto your own Notion. And of course, if you don't have Notion or don't want to get into Notion, we also have it available as an Excel file that you can download. Most of the things that I've referenced in this video are going to be available in the members only portion of the Vague portal, along with some other resources. It's completely free to become a Vague member, and I would highly recommend it because you get exclusive access to events, resources, projects, digital experiences, etc. And if you really want to get active, you know, you don't just want to like watch and view and see stuff, but you want to participate as well, you can get access to the project briefs from our commercial allies, collaborate with other members on in-house projects, or pitch your own projects, all for free. Free 99. Free 99. Free 99. Literally, all you have to do is sign up, because it basically tells that you're interested and that you want to get in on this, and literally that's it. It's free. It's free. I cannot express that enough. It's free and it's amazing, and you just join this like network of creatives and people who just want to get stuff done and see their stuff out there. Come on, free, for free, for free, free. It's free. What are you waiting for? Go sign up. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you if you got to the end. Thank you for your patience. Just a reminder that the link to access the cycle tracker that I mentioned and showed you in this video will be linked below. But access to extra resources surrounding this topic will be available for members only. So I'll put the link to sign up and the link to the Tomes page down below as well. And if you go on the Tomes page and you think, whoa, I like what I see, and you're thinking, I would love to make, create, participate in something like this, then please join us. Join us. We're not a cult, I promise. Sign up, we'd love to have you. Don't be shy. Come on, don't be shy. Join us. You know you want to. Last thing I want to mention is that as much as we love our digital experiences and the digital exhibitions that we've got on the Vague portal, on the Vague site, we're finally going to have an in real life one at the Whitworth Gallery in Manchester sometime this summer. Trust me when I say it has been a long time coming. I think it's almost been 2 years now since we've been wanting to exhibit some of this stuff, and we cannot wait to share it with you guys. We cannot wait to have you just see the work that we've been doing. So keep your eyes peeled for dates and other projects coming up for you to take part in, and just remember, sign up and everything becomes easy. The access opens up and signing up is free. Yeah, that's it. That is it from us. Please look after yourself. Thank you again for coming to watch this video on my channel. There will also be some stuff on Tomes and Vague and all of that. Just again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for watching a video that's slightly different, because I'm not just representing myself in this video, I'm representing Vague. Thank you for learning with me, learning with us, and thank you because I know you're gonna sign up, right? right? No pressure. I feel like I've been pressuring you, no pressure. But if you want to, we don't do things that we don't want to over here. Thank you. Like, comment, subscribe, whatever you want to do. Have a brilliant, amazing day, and see you on the flip side, my G. Bye.